Hey guys, Duke from Retro Nonsense here. I'm going to try something a little different this time. In lieu of a well thought out scripted review where I capture footage and spend weeks and weeks of my life putting it together, I thought from time to time maybe I'll also do a kind of quick review where I just kind of give my thoughts off the cuff of a game that I just played through. So that being said, I recently played through Castlevania Bloodlines for Sega Genesis for the first time, and I thought I'd share my thoughts with you in video form. So the first thing that I noticed when I put the game in was that I was a little taken aback at how the graphics were what I would consider a little subpar, at least compared to Super Castlevania 4. Am I using that term right, subpar? I think I am, but I believe in golf, if you are under par, you're doing well. So maybe I'm using that term wrong. But anyway, my point is, I'll have to look that up. If it's, the game was, the graphics right off the bat I noticed were a little not as good as what I thought they might be for a 16-bit game. And also, the music and the sound, initially, my initial thoughts of that were a little underwhelming. So those were kind of my first impression. That was my first impression of the game when I first played the first couple levels or whatever. Now, I will say, though, that one of the things that I loved about the game was the graphics and the sound. Even though I think they were a little, I guess, underperforming for what a 16-bit game should be. And again, as you guys most of you guys know, I grew up with the Super Nintendo. I did play the Genesis a little bit in my past, but it was only at friends' houses and such. But I liked how it, right off the bat, I was like, this is a Genesis game. And I don't know how to explain it. I'm sure others can experience the same thing, where something about it, the style, the way the graphics look, the way the game feels, and the way the sound is, it just was a Genesis game. And I really liked that. And that's one of the things that I like about the older consoles, especially the 8 and 16-bit era, is the consoles themselves will generate character in the games, because just like a Super Nintendo game, I mean, for me, I can spot a Super Nintendo game a mile away, because they all have a similar kind of look to them and sound to them, and the same thing goes for the Sega Genesis. And I really like that about the game, is it really was a Sega-y game, if that's a stupid term to use, I know, but for some reason, I really just like that aspect of playing Genesis games. They all kind of have the same sound and feel and look to them. So that aspect of the graphics and sound I really, really kind of enjoyed. So as the game went on, I will say that overall, looking back, I do think that the music was a little forgettable. I wasn't humming along the music in my head when I was cutting the grass and stuff like that. So it wasn't bad, it wasn't terrible, but it just wasn't something that stuck with me. And although the graphics were what I would consider a little, less than stellar, they were still solid. Some of the animations were kind of awkward. There were some cool parts where the background was moving, and there were some things that kind of fell over, and large kind of epic moments like that were really cool. But overall, again, comparing it to Super Castlevania 4, which is what I grew up with, I thought that this game was a little underneath that. It was a difficult game, but not terrible. I did get through it, fairly quickly. And some of the most of the boss patterns I was able to figure out fairly quickly. But I did have to work at it, and work at getting the patterns down, which is always that's one of my favorite parts about playing the old platformers is the trial and error and the patterns you have to figure out to beat a level or beat a boss. So I found enjoyment in that. So as far as the difficulty goes, like I said, it was a great challenge. It was a very solid challenge, but not frustrating. So I think that was very well balanced in this game. I've heard other people say this is a really hard game, and I would say it is, but it wasn't like throw the controller across the room hard. It was just hard enough to where when you worked at it, you were rewarded with achieving your goal or beating the boss. So that was really good about the game. The game mechanics and the gameplay were pretty solid. So also one of the minor gripes is like for example when the main character, and I forgot, I'm embarrassed about this, who the main character is. It's not Simon Belmont. Is it Richter? I don't remember. I'm not one for remembering storylines too well, and it just has a kind of a loose, thin story. But when he you can at some points swing with your whip, and that was kind of awkward and didn't work that well. And I remember in the Super Castlevania 4, it worked very well, and that was one of the fun parts of the game, was swinging and throwing your whip on things and using it as like a grappling hook and kind of swinging across chasms and stuff. This game had that a little bit, and it just didn't work as well. But anyway, minor complaint. It still had it. Enemy designs were great. There were some cool enemies, but not as diverse as I thought I might find. Like I just played through Symphony of the Night. I think it was a year and a half ago or so, or about a year ago. And that had so many different enemies. It was just like endless amounts of enemies. Every time you turn a corner, there was something new. And this didn't have quite as many enemies. So, on a side note, I also would like to say that I did not use any walkthroughs or any internet or any cheat codes or anything like that. I played this old school on the CRT with the Model 1 Genesis and the old 3-button controller here. So, that's what I played it on, and I really got a lot of satisfaction out of playing it like that without using it. And not that there's anything wrong with nowadays we're all busy and have lives, so jumping on the internet to try to figure out the pattern of a boss, nothing wrong with that, but I really enjoy figuring those things out for myself. It makes me feel like retro gaming, hardcore, whatever you want to say. So anyway, I just find enjoyment in that. So that's how I played through this game, that's how I beat it. And overall, I think the game was great. It was fantastic. Not one of the best Castlevania games by any means, but definitely a solid, I'd give it maybe a 4 out of 5 stars, maybe 3.5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, something like that. So there you have it. There's my. Maybe this isn't working out. I don't know. I'm not very good at talking off the cuff, so maybe this was a bad idea. But there's my thoughts on Castlevania Bloodlines. I hope you enjoyed this video, and let me know if this is a bad idea. It probably is. So just go ahead and write that in the comments. I'll see you guys next time. Thanks. Bye.